Hey everybody. Well, today is Sunday, March 28th. Got 1 week to accomplish my goal. It's possible, but even if I don't make it by next week, I'm still going to get this thing on the road as quick as I can. I'm not going to quit working on it just because my deadline passed. But I still think I can make my deadline. Maybe a little bit of luck. But I haven't gotten much done the past couple of days because I've been hunting parts and trying to figure out my radiator situation. The water neck, I've taken the water neck off the old engine. This is what was on this engine. This reservoir, they put these mainly in passenger cars like the Galaxies and Fairlanes. And it would not work with this radiator because the hose would have to come out and kink at such a sharp angle to hook into the radiator. But my problem was, this is a 2-inch diameter, this is 1.75-inch diameter. The radiator is 1.75-inch diameter. Well, they make a 2-inch reduced to 1.75-inch hose. They make several of them. That's what I was looking for. Then I got to thinking, I've got a 70 model with a 360 in it. It's the old yellow, light green truck, whatever color it is. I'm colorblind, so it looks like light green to me. But the water neck on that 360 is 1.75 inches. So I thought, yeah, that'll work. Then I started looking at thermostats. Well, this one took a 2-inch diameter thermostat. But this one takes a 2.5-inch diameter thermostat. And the problem with that is this would go right through the hole in the engine, in the intake. So I had to have a 2.5-inch diameter thermostat. And would not work with that water neck. See, this is a 2.5-inch. See how it fits in there nice and snug. It even seats in this little ring right here, this little depression. But a 2.5-inch won't work on this one because it is made for a 2-inch. So decided I'd have to use this water neck with a 2.5-inch diameter thermostat. And finally found a hose. They didn't even have to order it. They had it in stock. I just looked up while the girl was showing me the radiator hoses they had. And I got this one. It's a universal hose, flex hose. I like these better than the other ones. The other ones with them big ridges, flex ridges on them, look kind of tacky to me. These don't look as bad. And this one, I can trim it. I don't like to trim into this flex part. I'd rather keep using the flat end like it's made for, but it shouldn't hurt anything for me to clamp onto this because I am going to have to cut this because it is too long. I've already tried mocking it up in there and it wants to pop up off of the radiator water neck. So we can trim it. I'm going to wait about trimming it till I get the water neck and thermostat installed. Then I'm going to test fit it and then pull it down to where it needs to be here on the radiator, find where I need it, cut it off there. And then the bottom radiator hose, this was the factory radiator hose. And it actually fits perfect. This is the replacement that showed up on the computer. Now we'll have to trim it, but one thing about it is, see how this one cuts down at an angle like this, and this one, here we go, I'll show it like this. See, this one cuts down at an angle like this, and this one goes straight. I'll have to pull this one down just a little bit to get it to fit, but I think it'll be fine. Believe so. So, and this one is warranted. The flex hose is not warranted, but I'm not worried about that. Then I got a new thermostat. I wanted to get a 160 degree thermostat to help keep this engine a little cooler. They didn't have one in stock. They could have ordered one, but they had 180 in stock. This is a Duralast brand. I don't know how good they are, but as long as it works, it'll work. So it's kind of the redundant statement of the day. But anyways, it's 2.5 inch. It'll fit into the water neck housing that I'm going to use, that I have to use. Fits perfect. And I dug through an old bucket of gaskets. I found a gasket. So I didn't have to buy a new gasket. I'll just put a little bit of blue silicone on that to help it seal. Just to make sure it seals good. And then we'll get after we get the hoses hooked up, we'll get it filled up with water and antifreeze. And I still have to put the new oil filter on and fill it with oil. I still have to fill the transmission with transmission fluid. But I'm going to wait about that because I don't have the transmission lines hooked in the bottom of the radiator yet. But it's no problem. All I got to do is just, there's 2 plugs in the bottom of this radiator because this radiator was in a standard manual shift transmission. Stick shift, as we call it here in the South. Or straight shift. Stick shift or straight shift is what we call them here. But, so it's got 2 plugs in the bottom of the radiator for the transmission fluid cooler. All I got to do is pull those 2 plugs out. I've already loosened them to be sure they were not hung. I loosened them, but I just left them kind of finger snug in the holes to keep trash out while I was working on this. Then I've got 2 fittings that were on the other radiator over here. I just had to put those in place of the plugs. Then lines will fit right up to them just fine. Then I can fill the transmission. And I'm going to put this stuff here in. Transfix. See if it works. I put some of this in my Torino transmission. It was the Super Transfix that I used, which was a little more expensive, but it's practically the same stuff and same brand. So hopefully this will keep that transmission in good shape, get it working and shifting properly. Hopefully. I still don't know that transmission is going to work, but I got faith in it and a whole lot of hopefully good luck. So we'll get started putting these hoses on. Put the water neck and thermostat in first, and then we'll start with the bottom radiator hose and then the top one, then oil, an oil filter, then transmission fluid. Then I still got to straighten out the wiring. All right, well, let's get busy. Welcome to Redneck Wiring 101. Hey y'all, watch this edition. This was 12 volts to the coil, and this was 12 volts to the electronic ignition. So I believe we need to splice these two together. And this was to the temperature sending unit. This is to the temperature sending unit on this engine. So we splice those two together. Today is Monday, March 29th. Should be able to crank it this evening. I guess we'll go ahead and get the alternator put on. I got it wired up last night. Then I will get the solenoid mounted. I got to run this starter cable. Make sure it clears my headers good so it doesn't melt and short out. And shouldn't be no trouble. I've still got to put transmission fluid in it too. That's another thing. So I may do the transmission fluid first and then do the rest of this. Those sparks. Nothing. All right. Let's see if everything's wired up. See if she'll turn over. Turns over. I don't hear any weird noises. See if we can get some go juice hooked up to her. See what she says then. Get some of these tools and strap over here so they don't go flying everywhere. So crank. Go. Let's crank in this truck. All right, well, now that we've cranked it and run it, I found out my oil level is way over full. I knew it was over full to start with, but I couldn't tell how much because the oil filter hadn't filled up. Because this oil filter goes in at the side, I couldn't pre-fill it. So I had to drain some oil out of it. Put some more transmission fluid in because the stick wasn't even touching it, what I put in before after it transmission circulated it. Should have had enough to keep the pump from burning up, because I didn't run it too long. Just got to drain a little bit of oil out. The fuel pump does work. Then I've got to figure out a way to mount the battery. I've got to check the gas tank, see what kind of shape it's in. And I've got to address the brakes. I'm going to try and rebuild that master cylinder, see if I can get a little bit of brakes just to test drive it a little bit a couple times. But I do have more parts coming to fix the brakes the way they need to be. So, good news. Last year, when I did the first start on this truck in 17 years with that other engine, it would not crank with the key. Now it's cranking with the key. So, put in that new solenoid relay, starter solenoid, starter relay, whatever you want to call it. That, I think, is what fixed that. When I hooked the battery cables up, there were no sparks jumping when I hooked the positive up, so that was good. The battery's been hooked up all this time for about an hour or longer, and there's no smoke. Don't smell any burning wires. Everything's fine. Seems to be. Now the oil light was on and the alternator light was on, but I don't know if that's because of the oil pressure sending unit or the wiring going to the oil light, or don't know if the alternator is even charging. But it could be just the wiring going from the alternator. So we'll try a few things, see if we can diagnose what it is. The easy way to tell if the alternator is charging is crank it, let it run, unhook the battery. If the alternator is putting out a charge, it should keep running. So we got some fixing to do, some diagnosing to do. I've got to address the overfilled oil, so I'll do that first, I guess. Well, I got some bad news. I was going to drain the oil because it's good bit over full. I wasn't going to film it because I was going to be underneath. You won't be able to see nothing. All you'd see is me jack up the truck, my feet sticking out the side. Maybe my butt crack every once in a while. But got to looking, I figured, well, let me see if I can pull the oil filter off. I may be able to run a hose through there and suction out some of the oil because it was going to be such a pain to get to the drain plug. So I came, pulled the oil filter off, and my heart sunk. After I run it a while ago, there's nothing in it. So I was kind of curious as to why the old oil filter had nearly brand new oil in the middle and old oil coming out around the side. I should have checked the oil pump when I had the engine out. I know I should have. That's why I've been waiting so long about starting the camera back up, because I am frustrated with myself. I don't think the engine's hurt. I don't know how long it's been run with the oil pump not pumping, because no telling how long it was run before I got it that the oil pump wasn't pumping. But there's no weird noises coming from the engine. Little valve train noise, but I think that's just because the lifters are not getting pumped up. When I drained the oil, there was no metal, no sparkly flakes, anything. So I think if I can get it pumping oil, I may be okay. I pulled the distributor out and saw this. The oil pump shaft is sheared off. So after a lot of banging, finagling, massaging, rearranging, and lots of work with this magnet, I got the rest of the shaft out. So here's the other part of the shaft. Now what's got me worried is why it twisted off here. Is that oil pump seized? Maybe the gears busted, maybe it got some trash or a chunk of something in between the gears. Maybe the oil pump just went completely bad and locked up. But that doesn't look good. So I'm going to see if I can rig up something to stick down in there and see if I can get the oil pump to turn. But needless to say, I said quite a few dirty words when I found out I had no oil pump. Alright, well, I'm going to have to see what parts I need to order. See if I actually do have to change out the oil pump. But I can't seem to get it to do anything by putting this in there and turning it. I had to get my borescope down in there so I can see something. If I can figure out what I have to do. Okay, well I got my endoscope out here trying to figure out why I'm in the situation I'm in. The shaft for the oil pump on the bottom of the distributor broke off. This piece is stuck in here. Can't get it out. And I've attached some sockets and everything to the other end of the shaft and what's left of it. Run it down in the hole along with my endoscope. You can see right here, I've got it in there and try and turn it and it will not budge. So that oil pump is locked up tight. So it's got to come out. Okay, so where are we at now? This is the day after I found out I wasn't pumping oil. The lifter valley looked fairly wet with oil, so I think the engine's okay. I believe if I just change out the oil pump, I think I'll be good. I didn't hear any squealing or grinding noises coming from the engine. I think it'll be okay. As good as it run, I think it'll be okay once I get oil pressure back to it. All right, to change out that oil pump now, I'm going to try jacking the engine up, giving me a little more room underneath to pull the oil pan. Just take the motor mounts loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the broken distributor back in there for now. The distributor works, but the shaft is broke off in the end, and it won't come out. So I'll probably have to get another distributor. I may use this one out of the old engine. Now it's a points and condenser distributor, but it worked. It worked fine. But I do have to have a new oil pump. I can pull that one apart and look at it, but for it to lock up like that, could be a chunk of something caught in the gears, keeping them from turning. But either way, it's got to come out. No way around that. I know I'm not going to make my April 4th deadline to get this truck on the road because of that. Because I was stupid and I didn't check it. And I am beating myself up about it. But, you know, it is what it is. It happens. It's part of why I got out of doing mechanic work back when I was younger. I got to where I hated it because you do all this work, go through all this trouble, then one tiny little thing makes you have to go back and redo it all over again. And when I say tiny little thing, oil pump, worst part about it is pulling the oil pan off because there's just two little bolts holding the oil pump on. So, well, I still know where the distributor was pointing and where it was setting. The engine has not been turned since I pulled the distributor out. As long as I can put it back in there with it pointing same spot it was, it'll be fine. It won't be out of time. I failed at my 1 month challenge, but I could have pushed ahead and tried to run it the way it was just to finish it up, and it would have done more damage. So it's good that I found out this way. I hate that I found out after I got the engine back in, but I mean, still, before I run it, tried driving it and everything, then lock up on me on the side of the road. So hopefully, if I can get a new oil pump in it, I'll be okay. I don't know how long it was run before or how much it's run since that oil pump locked up, but I don't think it's been run much, because if it had been run a whole lot, it probably would have locked up already. So I think I caught it in time. Okay, well, it's been several days now. I dropped the oil pan, pulled the nuts off the motor mounts. I used the hoist to lift the engine up a little bit so I could get the oil pan and oil pump out. The shaft going from the distributor to the oil pump was twisted and sheared in two. I put the distributor just so I wouldn't lose place of where my timing was set. But got the oil pump out and took the cover off here, and this little piece of plastic right here was caught in one of these here, and was just thick enough to lock up the oil pump. So I popped that out with a screwdriver. The oil pump spins freely now. And I pried this up with a screwdriver, and all these other pieces were underneath that. And it took me a minute to figure out what it was. A bunch of people on TikTok said they were timing gear teeth, but I didn't think they were because of the shape of these. They're kind of odd shaped. But then I got to looking at those marks there, and those look like timing chain marks to me. So I got my endoscope, run up under the engine, and I'll try and put footage of that in here, and looked at the gears, and the timing gears have been changed. They're both metal. So whoever changed it out, they cleaned out the oil pan. The oil pan's over there dripping into the oil change container there. And there wasn't any other pieces in the oil pan. So whoever changed out the timing gears and timing chain, cleaned out the oil pan and everything, but they didn't pry this piece up and get them pieces out from underneath there. And that one piece must have slipped through that hole there. It was just thin enough to get through that hole. So I don't think the engine's hurt. The oil in the bottom of the pan felt real slimy, like there was some kind of additive in it. So I think that's what saved the engine. I don't know if somebody put Lucas or STP or what in there, but you can tell there's some kind of additive in there. So I think that saved the engine. And I've already ordered a new oil pump. New oil pump is there. I ordered a new drive shaft for it, which is right here. And it's a heavy duty drive shaft. So it's beefier than the original. The original doesn't have the round part in the center. It's just that hex shape all the way down. So this one will be stronger. A new oil pan gasket, and I got a new pickup screen and tube. And the screen and the pump are both Melling brand. And that screen is better than this one because it doesn't have that hole in the center. It's a screen all the way across. So shouldn't have to worry about anything like that happening again. But we'll get this new pump installed. I got to clean the oil pan up and get the gasket on it. And I've got some ultra black gasket sealer, and this is made for heavy oil use, oil resistant. So I'll use that to seal up the oil pan, because it looked like it was leaking before. Somebody didn't have a couple of the bolts very tight. They were just barely even finger tight. So put that on there, get it reinstalled, should be good. I've got the bolts for the oil pan and the oil pump in my little ultrasonic cleaner right there. And right now they're soaking. I've been turning it on every few minutes to let it run. That little ultrasonic cleaner only runs in 90-second intervals. So I hit the power button, it'll run for 90 seconds and then quit. But I'm letting it soak, and then I'll go hit the button occasionally, let it run, let it soak, go and hit the button, and let it run again. So I'll be ready to start putting this thing back together here pretty soon. Hey, here's the oil pan that came off the engine, and it's got some dimpling around some of the holes where somebody had tightened the bolts a little too tight on the cork gasket. And there's a few places where it looked like the gasket wasn't sealing very well. So I could have fixed it, I'm sure, but just to be safe, because I don't want to have to pull this oil pan again to fix a leak, I went ahead and ordered a new oil pan. And it just came in today. Wasn't expecting it so soon. I wasn't expecting it until one day next week, but here it is. And yes, it's chrome. I know I didn't have to have chrome. You won't hardly be able to see it. But this was the only one I could find that said in the reviews and the questions and answers that would definitely fit an F100 with an FE engine. So, and it was only about 10, 15 bucks more expensive than most of the others anyways. And the others all said, will not fit truck, van, SUV. So I'm sure they probably were the same, but just to be sure, I know for sure this one fit by the comments. So, and plus a little extra chrome, make it look a little better from what little bit of it you will see. So yeah, I'll get that put on here pretty soon. It's gonna be a little bit of a pain because some of the bolts can be a little tough to reach, but going up over that cross member, but I'll get it though. Hopefully in a few hours, we'll have this thing running again. Before I crank it, I am gonna prime it. I've got my drill over there and I've got some extensions to set up where I can cycle the oil pump without running the engine. Okay, well, I got the oil pan ready, oil pump's ready. I got the gasket on there, I got silicone on both sides, the black oil resistant RTV, and the shaft, I'm gonna stick it up in place first. And I've got a socket, an extension sticking down through the top, and the socket has a magnet in it, so, and I've already tested it, and it'll hold pretty strong on the shaft until I can get the oil pump up there, get it in place. So first I've got to jack up the engine, lift it up, and get under there and start reassembly. Got my bolts over there in that box close by so I can just reach over and grab them. I've got to get my ratchet and sockets, have everything down there that I'll need so I won't have to come back out from under there till I get ready to lower the engine back down and then bolt up the oil pan. So here we go, let's have some fun. Okay, this gasket that goes between the oil pump and the block, had to trim out the corner just a little bit because it was covering up the hole coming from the pump that feeds the engine. So trim that out just a little bit with an X-Acto knife, and it clears the center hole on the mounting surface of the oil pump now. Before anybody says anything, yes, I tightened up the oil plug on the oil pan, the new one that came with it. So that is tight. Keep pulling up my pants to make sure I'm not showing off my butt crack and mooning you guys. I'd hate to be turning a bunch of people into werewolves with this big old moon here. You do what you can when you have to. Run this down through the hole in the block for the drive shaft. That'll be long enough where it'll stick out the bottom. I'll be able to put the drive shaft in it, and this magnet's strong enough I can pull it up through there. I'll get some vice grips and clamp on this to hold it up till I can get the oil pump up in place. Okay, well, we've got the old distributor from the other engine in here. It's points and condenser distributor. The other distributor, I could not get the end of the oil pump shaft out of the bottom of it. It must be made into it or something. But this one worked on the other engine. Got it all hooked up. I checked the points. I am getting spark to the points. And I did prime the oil pump. I run a drill. I burned up one drill on it actually, running the oil pump to prime it. So we should be ready for another first start, or a second first start, or a second start. So I just gotta get my gas jug over here, hook up my fuel pump, and see if she'll talk to me. I just hope the timing's still right. I tried to set it back like the other one was when I put that one in. So we're gonna hope. Timing is off a little bit. Let's try going, advance it a little more. Better, quieter. Not hearing the valve train noise like I did before. Yeah, I want to show you guys this real quick. Check this out. No blow by at all coming out of this engine. Ain't nothing. Thing's running great. Okay, so what's next? Now we got it running again. Got to find out what oil pressure I have. It should be good. I know I've got oil pressure because the lifters are not making a noise like they were when I crunk it the first time. So the lifters have pumped up. They're nice and quiet now. The oil light is still on, but that could be because of this wire or that sending unit. I know I got oil pressure. I just want to find out how good it is. And fuel pump is working, so I've got to check the fuel system. Well, I've got to make sure it's timed right. I got to check the timing. I've got it set where it will run pretty good right now, but it could be a couple degrees off here or there, because it did spit a time or two after I got it adjusted where it was running good. So get that figured out. Main thing right now is oil pressure. Wonder if I got enough fluid in the transmission for it to move a little bit on its own now. Hey. It does try to pull. So that's good. So the transmission is doing something. For the first time it's moved under its own power in 18 years. Yeah. Those fingers. Go look in some marks in the grass I made from spinning the tires. The engine runs pretty strong. Here's reverse. It actually spun both tires. Right here's where I put it in drive. Spun both tires there too. So that may be a limited slip, traction lock, positive traction rear end. Cool. I've got a triple gauge set that I bought. Just a cheap set I got at the Zone. I got in the Zone. And they're Equus brand, EQUUS. And they were fairly cheap. I didn't want to spend a whole lot on gauges for this build. I'm trying to do this as cheap as possible. I have spent a little more on a couple of things just to be sure I was good, but on gauges I didn't want to spend a whole lot. I just need to know that I'm getting oil pressure, voltage, and make sure I'm not overheating. And I'm pretty sure I'm good on all three. It's just this will verify and let me know exactly where I'm at, or closer to where I'm at. All right, now then, got the tube inserted in the fitting. Got the little collar in there that has tightened up. Tighten these two up, and there's a collar that pinches onto the tubing, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, what I've done here is right up there was a hole where the choke cable came through for the manual choke. And I run my tube up through there. I had a grommet kit here. Put a rubber grommet in there because I didn't want that sharp metal edge of the hole rubbing on that line, because it's just a nylon tube. So I used a rubber grommet in there, but the only one I had that was close to the right size was just a little small. So I wrapped it with electrical tape, run a razor knife around the center so it would kind of make a little groove where the original groove in the grommet was, and got it stuffed up in the hole there, and should keep the that sharp metal edge from cutting into this nylon tube. All right, let's see if we got oil pressure now. Same as I am here. It's going up. Okay, oil pressure's a little high, but that's partly because it's cold, and we do have 15W30 in it. So let it run a little bit and make sure I don't have any leaks in my hose here. It looks fine. I don't see any bubbles moving, so I don't think I have any leaks. I'm moving backwards a little bit because it's idling now. Oil pressure's dropping just a little. Still just above 60 psi. So still running good. Still running like a champ. I still need to double check the timing and the carburetor. Make sure everything's tuned up like it should be because it's running a little bit rich. All right, well, that's going to do it for part 4, I believe. We got it running, moving under our own power, and as time goes on, we'll eventually get another thing fixed, test drive it a little more and a little more. Slowly move into the process of driving it regular, and should be a good daily driver here soon. I'm going to keep a check on the oil, transmission fluid, and coolant levels for a while. The mechanical fuel pump is working. I had to put the distributor and coil from the old engine in here to get it running. I will upgrade it in the future, but for now this one works great. So just to get it going, I'll just use this one for now. So next I've got to work on the wiring, brakes, and fuel system. But as you probably guessed, today is Saturday, April 10th. So I missed my April 4th deadline. But like I said, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get it running and drive it again. So at least yard driving. But as long as the transmission works like it should, which it might just do it. Like I said, I still don't know if transmission is going to work, but it will pull itself in reverse and forward. I just don't know about shifting through the gears yet. But we'll find out eventually after we get some brakes. So I don't know how much I'll get done in my next video, but I may start on brakes next. But yeah, we got it running. Don't think there was any damage done at all with no oil pressure in the past, because they put some additive in there. Whatever that was, it saved the engine. So it's looking good. Sounds good, runs good. Crank right up with a key now. Yeah, that'll do it for part 4. Subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell if you want to get notified when my next video comes out. Should be soon. But yeah, we've got it running. Just got to get it stopping. I got to get the wiring working. I got to get the fuel system working. I got to get the hood back on it. That's not a priority right now, though. Yeah, tune in next time. See what else we can get accomplished on this thing. All right, that'll do it for part 4. Appreciate y'all watching. Y'all take care. See you next time.